Right, so hello and welcome back to my channel. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Saskia, and basically I think it was about a year ago I did a video on how to pass your driving test, and I ended up doing quite well. Not that I think the tips were particularly good or, you know, better than other tips people might have, but basically I thought I would do the same video but for anxious drivers. So like the tips I gave were already from an anxious driver perspective, but I want to give more specifically anxiously driving based ones. So basically I did my test literally 2 years ago. Doesn't feel like it because I did it literally right before all the tests kind of got cancelled. Glad I got it out of the way because I did not enjoy driving, and I feel like if I hadn't, the pressure of the test is what made me not like driving. As in a lesson, once I kind of got into the driving lesson, I was happy to just cruise, but having to like then stop and do a manoeuvre, not for me. So basically, first things first, I'm going to say revise your theory well. In order to feel safe on the roads, I liked to know what the road signs meant. And I didn't particularly do much revision, as in I literally installed the 4-in-1 driving test app. Like if you go on the App Store, the top 2 paid apps I think are normally driving test ones. Buy one of those, have a go at that, and it kind of, some of the things are useful, as in some of the things taught me about road signs, or even just like looking at the hazard perception being like, I don't know what that sign means. It helped me feel more okay, because like I didn't know what the, like you're going up to a roundabout and there's the lines with like 1 line, 2 line, 3 lines. I didn't really know what that meant. Or like I knew what it meant, but I didn't really know what it meant in relation to driving. As in I knew it meant kind of, you know, slow down, but like at what point was I slowing down? Was it the first set of lines, the second set of lines, the third set of lines? Basically, learn what some of the signs mean, and also learn what they actually physically mean as if you were in the car. Like if you're out on the road with your instructor and you see a sign and you're like, don't really know what that means. Or like you know what it means, but you don't know how to apply that sign, just ask. I asked my instructor loads of random questions, and it just made me feel a bit less nervous because I was like, well, I kind of know what's around me and what's happening. Then this is one that might just apply to me because I'm a very kind of, I have a lot of sensory issues, but I always wore the exact same thing when I did my driving lessons. As in, I wore a pair of black leggings, I wore my Leavers hoodie from secondary school because it had a pocket that I could put my phone and my purse in. So then all I took on my driving lessons was my phone and then a tiny little purse with my keys in it and my driver's license, obviously. And that was it. So I didn't have to faff about with like a handbag in the back. I didn't have to faff around with anything like that, and I didn't have to kind of deal with holding a bag or feeling, like I didn't have to deal with feeling things on me. And I also knew that I felt comfortable in those clothes. Like I changed a couple of times because it was summer and it was boiling, but like otherwise I stuck in my outfit because I felt comfortable in that. It felt right to me. Same with shoes, don't change shoes. As in, trial a couple of shoes. I ended up going for like Lee Cooper canvas shoes from Children because they were flat on the bottom. There was no like indents of any kind, and I could feel the pedal fully. Pedal? I could feel the pedal fully. Like some people will wear trainers. I couldn't deal with trainers because they have like lumps and bumps and grooves, but like it made me feel more comfortable that I was wearing the same thing every time, and then the car would always feel the same. As in I would always feel the same, the car would feel the same, so I would feel the same in the car. That might be a bit of a niche thing, but even things like smells, I would wear the same perfume, same body spray, and I would also put quite a lot of my body spray on because I hate the smell of cars. Like regardless of if it's a new car or an old car, new cars stink. I hate the smell of leather, I think it's disgusting. But like even though my instructor's car wasn't that new, I could smell the carness of it, so I would cover myself in body spray, particularly kind of like here and like on the inside of my jumper, so then I could smell it coming up and it felt nice. Then another thing about kind of consistency, which I said in my last video, lessons at the same time. if you can keep your lessons at the same time, it helps. And if you can do your tests at the same time you did your lessons, it also helps. As in, my lessons, I think were like Thursday 2 till 4. My lessons kind of kept changing around, but it helped when I knew, oh, it's going to be Thursday, or oh, we're now sticking to Sundays. Like, I didn't kind of do Thursday then Sunday, it would kind of be Thursdays for a couple of months, Sundays for a couple of months, things like that. And then in terms of doing your test, don't assume because you know what the road is like on a Saturday at 3 p.m, it'll be the same on a Sunday at 3 p.m, if that makes sense. Like, ask other people when the test times are the best. I did my test, I think it was at 10:01 or 10:03. Great. Not busy. Like, you don't want rush hour. You don't want rush hour, you don't want 9 a.m. You don't want midday, and you don't want 3 p.m. because school. I think kind of 10, 11 and maybe 1, 2, I think are probably the best times to do your test because it won't be too busy, unless you've had loads of experience and you're very, very confident. But even with the experience of driving, I'm still not fully confident, so it helps to know what the road would be like and that I wouldn't have any kind of unexpected things like suddenly going on my test and it was school time. Like, just knowing things like that. And then also another thing, I was always told that I would get marked down for being hesitant, like for my hesitation for not instantly going when I saw a gap. That's not true. When I was on my driving test, I was coming out of a road and I had to turn right. There was a bus, so I could not see the cars coming. I just stopped and I was like, well, I'm not going to go because it wasn't perfectly clear on the left, but I'm sure I could have found a gap. Wouldn't have been safe and I wouldn't have liked it, which would have made me more nervous. My test examiner couldn't care less that I was waiting. As in, I waited for that bus to go, and then I still waited when there were cars coming because I did not find a gap that I thought I could fit into reasonably. I was at that junction for like, okay, it probably felt a lot longer to me than it was, but it was probably 2 minutes, 3 minutes maybe, because there was not a gap that I felt comfortable going in. My instructor literally told me, if there's a gap, go. No, if there's a gap that you can fit in and feel comfortable going in, then go. Because I was on one of my lessons, there was a gap that, yes, the car could fit in, but I didn't want to go. My instructor told me to go, so I went, I stalled, I then cried, I then panicked and didn't want to go the next time that there was a gap because I was like, well, I don't trust that there's a gap. So like, turning right, I always hated. Just wait. Like, as long as you're not sat at that junction for 10 minutes, if you see a gap that you don't think is comfortable, just don't look like you're planning on going. As in, don't start going and then stop going. And don't look as if you're about to get ready to go and then don't go. Like, if you're not going to go, don't go. Like, I saw a gap and I wasn't going to go, so I didn't even give an inkling of body language that I wanted to go or that I'd seen that gap, because I did not want them to think that I was hesitating on a gap I could have gone on. Like, I don't know if that's a very niche thing, but it will stress you out if you try and go into a gap and you know you've made a mistake. That's going to stress you out for the rest of the driving test. And even just for lessons. Also, I personally think that instructors are meaner in lessons than your examiners are. Personally, also, if you get a male examiner, you'll be fine. If you get a female examiner, best of luck, babe. I've heard female examiners are not nice. Female examiners, I've heard, like to just intervene, even when there's no need to. So if you get a male examiner, I think you'll be fine. But also, I think instructors are just meaner. As in, I watch loads of driving test videos online and people do something that I don't think is a fault, and the instructor's like, oh, a minor. So like, when I got into my test, I started counting up my minors and I was like, oh God, I shouldn't have gone in that gap. I didn't get any of those minors. None of the minors I thought I'd got. I thought about 5 minutes into my test I'd already failed. I was like, I've counted up at least 16 minors. Or like, I was just, no. I failed. I didn't get any of those minors. I didn't get a minor until the last 10 minutes when I just wasn't in the left-hand lane. I think your instructor was a lot meaner than they need to be. Something my instructor did that was really, really helpful, and something that I did as well, was I Googled like the test routes and literally just Google Map looked around them. And I was not comfortable with roundabouts, like I just didn't really like roundabouts. So my instructor printed out a map of the roundabout and drew the lanes and drew the arrows of where I would go in the lanes. because I was fine with like, you know, a typical 2-lane roundabout, but there was one that was like a 4-lane roundabout, and I was like, don't get it, don't understand it. So I knew before I even approached that roundabout on my test how I would do it. And then on my test I was just turning left anyway, so I didn't even touch that roundabout, but I didn't go to the roundabout being nervous because I knew how to do it. So like if there are any junctions or things that you don't like that are on a test route, or like just even in the nearby area that you could end up going on, print out a picture of them, practice them loads of times, as in I practiced that scary roundabout coming from every direction and going to every direction. So that even though I didn't love it, because I don't like roundabouts, I hate them, I could go up to that roundabout and not cry. Because let's say, crying's not going to be good for you. I did almost cry on my test. I mean, I cried at the end when I passed, but like, don't cry. It's not gonna stop the nerves. And also, I think having your test in the morning is better because you get it out of the way. I hate having things in the afternoon because I'm panicking for the rest of the day. I can't drink water because I'll need a wee. If it's in the morning, this is a weird thing, but I'm hydrated from night that I don't need to drink water, because if I drink water I'll need a wee. So I just could do my test without panicking. As soon as my test was over I could drink water, and also the test was out of the way and done. So I didn't have to then panic about the test being later on in the day. Like, if you can get your test out of the way in the morning, get your test out of the way. Like with your theory test, just get that done as soon as you can. If you fail, you fail. Like, a lot of people fail. I think the theory test is okay. I think it was relatively easy for me, but also I don't think the theory test has much application to the practical test. As in, I don't think anything I learned on the theory was actually too relevant on the practical, because the road signs we learned on theory, did I ever see any of those road signs? No, not really. Did I ever get asked about those road signs? No, not really. Like, the show me, tell me questions, I don't think have anything to do with your practical. No, with your theory, I mean. But like, also the show me, tell me questions they have on the website, just learn the answers, and chances are you'll get a nice one. I got something out, I think I got something about how your brake lights, knowing your brake lights were working, and I was like, oh, did you look in a window or like ask someone else to look? And then to clean the windscreen in the car. Like, just learn the buttons, learn how to do the bonnet. That bit, did not like the bonnet, didn't understand it, and also wasn't very strong, so I couldn't really lift it up and put it back down again. Learn how to do that. Chances are they don't really ask you about doing the bonnet stuff because the instructors just want to sit in the car and kind of get it done. But like, learn how to do that. Deep breaths. Another thing, with speed, I was always scared because my instructor, I'd be driving around like a 30 area and he would say, oh, you're not going fast enough. I was going fast enough. In a 20, you kind of go 20. In a 40, you kind of go 40-ish. In a 70, you go 70. In a 30, it's fine if you go like 24. I think sometimes I was going 22, sometimes I was going 24, sometimes I was going 26. As in, if I was in a little neighbourhood estatey bit that was technically a 30, I'm not going 30 because there's cars on both sides of the road. The junctions are every 5 metres, so I might as well not speed up because I'm going to slow down again. And I would just get asked to pull up on the left-hand side every 5 seconds. There was no point, and I didn't get marked down for going too slowly because I wasn't stopping traffic, because it makes logical sense. Once I was on a straight 30, you can go about 30. I think I still went 26, 27, but like, my instructor kind of made me put more emphasis on the speed than the examiner put on my speed. I don't think my examiner cared. Don't know if my instructor was just really laid back, but like, it made me nervous to think I'd have to go 30 in a 30. I was like, if I'm not going exactly 30, there'll be problems. There wasn't problems, because a lot of 30s, I don't like them as a 30. Same with a lot of 60s. A lot of country roads that are a 60, I'm going 45. Like, I was in 4th gear. Like, I probably wasn't even getting up to 5th gear. But yeah, like, I probably wasn't even going to get up to 5th gear because it's constantly winding and I didn't feel safe. Go the speed that is safe but still close to the speed limit. Like, in a 70, it's a straight line. There's nothing unsafe about going 65 or 70. Whereas in a 40 or in a 30 that's a really tight and narrow estate, going 30 is not going to be safe for me. Like, it's going to be stressful for me, which means it will... Driving's very stressful, and instructors don't really help that. my instructor kind of made me more nervous than I should have been. Like, he was fine, but some of the things instructors say aren't helpful. And like, when you watch online driving tests and stuff, the instructors kind of seem helpful, but they do tell people that they've made minor mistakes when they haven't made minor mistakes. Like, I didn't get any faults for observations, and I'm not gonna lie, I don't think I was observing that intensely. Like, my manoeuvre was the easiest one, thank God. It was pull up on the right and reverse 2 car lengths. And when I was reversing, I was always told I didn't look out my back mirror, no, my back window enough. I did the exact same thing as I did in my lessons, and my instructor didn't care. Like, I think you probably drive fine, and if your instructor lets you book a test, you're probably capable of doing that test. Like, unless you have any major faults. A lot of the things that would be minors that your instructor would call a minor, an examiner might not call a minor. So like, also don't go into the exam and count up your minors. I started in the exam and I was like, I'm going to count my minors just to see how I'm doing. I was on like 20 minors by the time I hit the first roundabout, and I literally wasn't. Like, just drive. Like, the examiner will try and make small talk with you. If you don't want to make small talk with them, literally just don't. My examiner spoke to me a tiny bit when I was going on a 30, a tiny bit when I was on a 50, and then on a motorway. Not a motorway, like a dual carriageway. And then he kind of knew to shut up when I was in the 20s and the 30s and like the stressful bits. If he didn't, I would have just stopped replying to him, or I would have just been like, yeah, If you don't want to talk to them, don't talk. Like, don't initiate a conversation with them because it will distract you. If they want to ask you questions, let them. My examiner was asking me questions about school. He was like, oh, what subjects are you studying? And I was like, oh, like, you can also just lie. Like, if you're studying complex subjects that don't make sense to explain, like I was doing the IB, I was like, don't want to explain it. So I literally just said, oh, I'm doing English, biology, psychology. I wasn't, but I didn't have the capacity to go, oh, so I'm doing the IB, you won't have heard of the IB, but it's international. No, like, that would have been distracting, I would have been lost, I would have been confused. Literally just, you can lie and they don't care. If they start talking and it distracts you, do just kind of go, yeah, Just kind of nod along and smile, because they can't fault you for not talking. Like, there's nothing wrong with not interacting with them. Especially if you don't have the sat-nav. If you're following road signs, just tell them to shut up. Like, just don't kind of respond, or just say, sorry, is it alright if we don't talk? Like, it will be a bit nerve-wracking, but I did not want to talk, so I literally just kind of gave him responses that didn't lead to another question. So like, I would just say, oh, I'm doing this, and I'd kind of say, oh, I'm enjoying them, so that he couldn't then ask me, oh, how are you finding it? And then he kind of shut up. Like, we did not share many words at all. And that helped, because I did not want to talk. Like, in my driving lessons, my instructor wouldn't talk to me until like I had to do something, or I made a mistake, or I asked a question. Don't talk, it's stressful. And things like with your seating, like, make sure that before you go to your exam, your seat is perfect, your steering wheel's close enough. Like, I drove to my test, so my seat was already in the position I wanted it to. We stopped at Tesco on the way there and cleaned the windscreen, cleaned the mirrors, cleaned everything so I could see out. And like, I set myself up in the car. I was happy with the car. He told me how to change the temperature because it got a bit warm on my test, so I changed the temperature and put the temperature down. Yeah. Do I have any other tips? I also did loads of lessons, and like, don't feel bad. Like, financially it's difficult to afford loads of lessons, but like, don't feel bad for doing more lessons, because I had loads of people in my class who were like, oh, I only did like 10 lessons, and I was like, I don't care, I didn't ask. Like, I did not practice at home with my mum's car because my mum's car was massive, and I also didn't want to swap cars. That was not what I wanted. I didn't have a car that I was going to drive in, so there's no point in me practicing in a car. I don't care what other people say. Like, don't tell people when your test is. Don't listen to them when they're like, oh, only took me 3 lessons to pass, only got half of mine. I didn't ask. Like, so many people in my class could drive, and they were like, oh, it didn't take me long. Oh, you've already had this many times of lessons. And I was like, I don't care. Don't feel bad about taking loads of time. I did loads of lessons. I cost a lot, but I passed because by the time I'd done those lessons, I was confident. Like, realistically, I probably spent as much time as someone who had a car doing lessons, I just didn't, like, I probably, you know, if they do 20 hours of lessons and 20 hours at home, I probably did 20 hours of lessons and 20 hours extra of lessons rather than 20 hours of driving at home because I didn't have the at home. But I don't feel bad for taking up time. Like, don't feel bad for also being like, oh, I want more lessons. Like, in the week before my exam, I think I had 3 lessons in a week, 4 lessons in a week, because I wanted them, because I wanted to be in driving mode. Like, don't have it so you have your lesson on a Sunday and then your test the next Sunday, because I need to be in the zone of driving. Like, drive to your driving test, have a 1 hour lesson before. Like, I think we left mine at 9 and my lesson was at like 10 or 11. So I had all of this time. I drove all the way to Tesco. I parked in the Tesco, so I practiced the parking. I then had to reverse out of the Tesco, go on the roundabout that was going to be in my test, and do all of the test-based things, which meant that once I got to the lesson space, I literally just pulled in, got out, gave them my licence, got back in the car and left. Like, there was no dilly-dallying. I also went to the toilet when I got there, because just go, you don't want to stress yourself out. Don't have any water or anything in the car because it will be stressful. I think that's all I have to say. Honestly, this could just be pretty much the same as what I said in my last video, but with more anecdotes, more of my stories, and hopefully the sign hasn't been too annoying because I can tell that she's just all the way down here. Not really sure why though, but yeah, hopefully that was helpful. I'll link my other 2 driving videos. I've got one on the theory, one on the practical test. And if you have any questions, because I'm a very nervous driver, do just ask away. This is